going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hashtag Jump, the podcast. I have a very special guest here today, one of my good friends. I met him when we were both living in Little Rock, Arkansas, and it's been such a pleasure to see the journey that he's been on throughout his life and his career and finding what it is that he wants to do. As you'll see as we get into the interview, he is quite a character, but he's somebody that I do admire very, very much. I want to introduce you guys to Hubert Tate, real estate agent for Keller Williams in Atlanta, Georgia. How you doing, Hubert?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good, good. Thank you for being here. I know I asked you to do this a while ago, but things take time, and I'm glad that you're here now to be able to talk to the viewers, the listeners, those people who are in the middle of chasing their dreams and finding their dreams or trying to figure out where to start, just because I think that you would really have a lot to say to help them. So let's just get started. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am originally from Jackson, Mississippi. Went to school in college at Jackson State. After Jackson State, I got a master's degree from Johns Hopkins. Both of my degrees are in communications. After I graduated, I immediately became a news reporter and anchor. Did that for 10 years and worked in markets across the Southeast. I started off in Lafayette, Louisiana. Worked there for a year at the CBS station, then moved to Mobile, Alabama. Worked there for 3 years at the Fox station. And then I moved to Little Rock. That's where I met you in 2011 and worked for the Fox and NBC duopoly there. And it was in Little Rock, actually a little bit before Little Rock, before I got there, I had started to get this itch. And I started to experience emotions of uncertainty, to be honest with you. And so when I moved to Little Rock, I said to myself, all right, let's take this position, but let's also start doing some soul searching. Let's do some soul searching.
Yeah.
And so did that, and I ended up leaving Little Rock in 2014 and got a position with the Human Rights Campaign in DC. Still in the communications world, but not the journalism side of communications. And so did that and realized that I still had the itch and I didn't know where it was coming from. And so during this time, I was still soul searching. And so what happened, my parents around 2015, 16, their health started to take a decline. And so I knew that I wanted to move back down to the deep South. I didn't know if I wanted to go to Mississippi or Texas or Louisiana or Georgia. And ultimately decided to move to Georgia because my sister is here. And so came here, got a position with a nonprofit working in communications again. And then it was here in Atlanta where I said to myself, okay, Hubert, we got to make some moves. Whatever it is, we got to make some moves. And so from the time I was in Little Rock to here in Atlanta, all that time I was in therapy. I had began talking to my priest about life and soul searching. I read all these books about purpose and living a purpose-driven life. I also started journaling really heavy. And I made a promise to myself. I said, look, wherever I end up, if it's outside of communications, journalism world, that's okay. Because I think in my mind, I was a little afraid of basically starting a new career all the way over again. That's what it was. I was 31 at the time and I was scared. But I said, I have to do something different because what story am I going to tell myself when I'm 61? Should I have done something way back in my 30s to make a huge difference in my life between now and when I'm older? And so did that. And I had started talking to a friend about this journey that I was on. And he's a realtor, a KW realtor. And he said, why don't you give real estate a try? Just give it a try. And so I said, and feel free to stop me if I'm going or just rambling on.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Um, so he said, just give real estate a try. I said, no, that's not me. I'm not a salesperson. I think salespeople are, slimy and, that's just not me. Look at me now.
I get it.
But anyway, um, what happened, I went to real estate school. In the class that I was in, it was 3 nights a week from 5 to like 10 at night, 5 o'clock p.m. to 10 o'clock at night. And so I went after I got off my full-time job. And I remember the first day I went, I was driving to the class and I was tired and I did not want to go. And I was just driving. I was like, I do not want to go to this, but I'm going to go find me a parking space. I don't want to get out, but I'm going to get out.
Yeah.
And so ended up going in, sat in the chair, the teacher started, and I immediately just became encapsulated. Like I was like, this is so interesting. And I enjoyed the class so much. Even after being tired all day, it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot. And so it was at that moment when I realized, oh crap, I think real estate is where I need to be. That was 2017, and I've been in it ever since. And I just celebrated my 5-year anniversary in the business, and so that's essentially my journey.
Well, in terms of finding your niche, your fit, it seems that communications was a big deal in the beginning phase. I think it was over a decade or close to a decade that you had been doing communications. What drew you to communications in the very beginning?
I believe in the power of a free and open republic, democracy. I believe in journalism, and that's something that was really interesting to me. I was always a good writer, and when I went to college, it was just a natural fit. I felt really good about it. At the same time, though, I think there's a difference between stuff that you're really good at, naturally, may not be what your career or vocation should be, or maybe that appears in several different ways. And so, and I think, when I got into journalism, on the TV side, I'm not gonna lie, I really like the pageantry of TV, the lights, the cameras, the live trucks, the action. I really enjoyed that. And also too, working as a reporter, you have access to people and places that normal lay people probably would not experience in their lifetimes. I was invited to, the governor's, when I was in Alabama, I was invited to the governor's office to witness a ceremonial signing of a bill that I helped push through the state legislature. And so, that's just cool stuff. It was cool. And so that's kind of what drew me to it.
I think it's funny, like when you talked about getting the itch, I feel like there's a certain age that it happens for a lot of people, just for things in general, not necessarily for a change in career, just your thinking differently just sort of changes. For me, it was when I was in my late 20s, approaching 30, where I started having all these feelings of like, wow, I'm not really doing what I want to do, or just feeling like the things that were working for me at the time were not. So what were the situations like at the times actually, when you started to get that itch? Is there anything that you felt was similar in each moment where you felt a push to do something different?
Yeah, I would definitely say that when I was working on air as a reporter, this is still true today. You report on a lot of crime, and you experience people at some of the lowest times of their life, and having to interview those people during those moments. A person's house burned down, a person diagnosed with cancer, hearing their story. Murder, crime, and again, these are important stories to tell. I don't want to discredit or discount any of that at all.
Right.
At the same time, when you're doing that 5 days a week, day in and day out, it begins to take an emotional toll on you, and it did. I remember. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying it's depleting,
Oh yeah, I mean,
or
and I
can
think
be.
what happened. One of my last stories before I got out of the business. Um, I was reporting on a girl in Little Rock who had just been shot and killed in front of her high school. And I remember getting that story in the editorial meeting, and I said, okay. And I went back to my desk, and I just couldn't hold it in. I just started crying, like legit crying in the middle of the newsroom. And my news director said, "Are you okay? Are you sure you want to do this story? And of course, me, I want to still go through with it because that's what I, signed up for. At the same time, I also realized that I had to do something different. I couldn't do it. I could not do it. And so that was pretty much one of or an example of, something, or the impetus to really push me to move forward and jump.
Yeah. Um, and I remember just not more on a surface level of sort of seeing you go from that. I remember when you told us that you were leaving. I say us, meaning like people that we know, like Dustin and things like that. But that you were leaving, that you were going to go to DC, and um, just the journey that you went on. Can you talk specifically about that? Because it seemed that that was going to be a lane for you, but it turned out that I don't know if maybe you didn't enjoy that with the human rights campaign, or I forgot what the story was exactly with that.
Well, I mean, I think so. During all of this too, is also when I realized I was gay, and so I was dealing with that, and the reality of coming out to my family and friends, while at the same time doing the soul searching in my career. And so when I went to the Human Rights Campaign, enjoyed the work, phenomenal work. I mean, I was able to witness the Supreme Court strike down the ban on same-sex marriages, and to be part of that PR team to drive those stories to local media. That was great, and I enjoyed it. Again, I enjoyed it. It's still, there was something just wasn't completely right or like full. Um, Although the work was great, is it and I'm a big person on listening to your gut and listening to your conscience. Um, and my conscience was saying, yes, Hubert, you're doing great work. You can be really good at what you're doing, whether you're a reporter, anchor, um, press secretary, whatever that is, you can be good at it. But I was coming to grips with the possibility of doing something else and being really great at it. And I think when I got into real estate, that's when I was, I'm really good at what I do. And I'm great. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, I've learned a lot, not to toot my own horn, but as they say, numbers don't lie, and my numbers don't lie. I'm in the top 5% in volume and units of the Atlanta Realtors Association. And that didn't come by accident. It didn't. And I think that I was able to use those PR, communications, journalism skills to create a whole new life and career for myself. And so I think that, that's what was really important to me to make that transition as well.
Well, how important is it? Because in watching that, in seeing it for myself personally, and hearing about it, it sounds like it's something that's very, very scary, that takes a lot of courage, a lot of bravery. How did you move through that time? I know you said that you were, seeing your therapy, but how were you able to move through those situations and reconcile that it's okay for me to change careers after all this time and really figure out what it is that I want to do? Just because I know that there are a lot of people in the world who want to do things, but they're afraid to let go of where they are because they've been there for so long, or I've got a mortgage, or I've got this, and they don't really want to take that risk. How were you able to move through those things, those different shifts?
Jesus Christ. No, but I mean, that's a great question. I mean, it takes a lot of faith. It really does take a lot of faith. Not only was I changing careers, but I was starting entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
And that is a
yeah.
journey in itself. And so, I mean, it was so scary. I felt when I got into real estate as if I was a college freshman all over again. because I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything. I didn't
You were a
have.
crab.
Go ahead.
You were a crab.
I was a crab all over again. I was a crab of real estate. And for those folks who may not know what crab means, is like it's a thing in college, especially college band. All the freshmen call crabs. But anyway, me, I was a crab. I was a real estate crab.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I started all over again. And a lot of people, I'll say this too, it has a lot to do with their egos. Because they don't want to be seen as starting over and basically having nothing.
Yeah.
When you've had so much for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, I experienced a great amount of success when I worked in journalism. But when I got into real estate, I didn't have that. I didn't have the numbers that I have now. I didn't, and so I really just had to go and just do it. And so when I went to real estate school, passed real estate school, passed the test, all that good stuff. And by the way, the Georgia real estate exam is not for the weak. That thing is 3 hours, and it will make you bow down in mercy because it is so hard. And there are actually people who have taken it like 7 to 8 times, and every time you take it, it's like a $200 charge or something like that. And so when I heard that, I was like, let me just make sure I study it as much as I can. And thankfully, to God be the glory, I passed it the first time. And so that was like a little glimmer of hope, like, all right, Jesus, all right, I don't know what you're doing, but I passed this step for the first time, and so we're about to do this. And so, you know, got my real estate license, all that good stuff. What I immediately did, I cut so many expenses that I had, and so because I was living probably on at the time, like a $4,500 budget a month between my mortgage and you know, these payments, that payments, entertainment and fun. Yeah. I cut that $4,500 down to $3,000 a month, and that was only expenses that I needed: my mortgage, light bill, water bill. I cashed out my 401k to pay off all my existing debts, so that I can have that additional self-confidence, knowing that I can move forward without all these bills over my head. And so once I paid off all my debts, once I got my bills under control with $3,000 a month, at the end of the day, when I started real estate, I had $10,000 in the bank to my name. And so $10,000, $3,000 a month, I had 3 months to make it work.
Wow.
So I said, all right, Jesus, we got 3 months. Yeah. Or else I'm gonna be in a stable with Mary and Joseph on the ground with hay.
Yeah.
Looking for shelter and sleep. But
yeah.
But essentially, I hit the ground running. I mean, I worked my first year in the business. I worked literally every day. It wasn't 8 hours every day, but in some respects, I gave some attention to real estate. And so I think that, going back to that soul searching and purpose, when God revealed to me that real estate was an option for myself, and I took the leap and took the risk on myself, that's when God really showed up. That's when, because I think for me, God gave me the vision. And a good friend of mine said to me, she's a therapist too, she said, look, Hubert, it sounds like you know what you need to do, but you just need to do it now. Either one or two things are going to happen. Either you have this vision, you go ahead and take this vision and run with it, or you have this vision and God's going to force you into it, and it may not be pretty.
Yeah.
And that could come, it could be really uncomfortable in the sense that, I don't know, maybe I experienced a life-altering event. I'm in an accident or something, and to make me move into real estate. Because it was clear as day that God wanted me to be in real estate. And so she put that in front of me, like, you either gonna go willingly or by force. Which one? Because you go into real estate.
Oh yeah.
And so I decided to go willingly, and it's been great. My first year in the business, I closed $5 million in real estate. When it comes to my commissions, my salary, I tripled my salary in my first year. But that would not have happened had I not taken the jump, the leap. Moreover, let me tell you this story. Um, my first deal that I had under contract, excited, thrilled. I mean, I started in June and my first closing was going to be in July. And I remember going through the process. It's the day before closing. I get a call and it's the bank. And they say to me, Mr. Tate, we are so sorry. Your client cannot close on this house tomorrow. We should not have approved this person to begin with.
Wow.
There was a $6,000 commission that just got up and walked away.
Yikes.
And again, keep in mind, when doing the math, I'm living off $3,000 a month. I already have lived off of June's 3,000, so I have $6,000 in the bank right now. So that $6,000 commission, I needed that to keep going. And so when it fell apart, I was like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? And the only option that I had at that point is just to keep going. So I kept going. My second deal that I had that became my first closing was in August. That deal, got it under contract. It closed. And the crazy part about God is that commission was double the commission that I lost the first go round. And so it was just another example of God just showing up. And so I got that commission. I was like, okay, I can survive 2 more months in real estate. let me keep going. Let me keep going. And so that's still how I live today. Like even like at this moment, I know how long I can survive as an entrepreneur if I don't sell a house. And so going back to before, I had 3 months to live. Right now, I probably have about a year and a half to live off of what I have. And I built that. It takes time and time and time to build that. And so I'm thankful. I'm grateful. And I'm thankful that I did take the job. And I want to encourage anyone who's on the fence, whether it's personal, career, whatever it is, you know what you need to do, get off your butt and do it.
There's actually a few things I want to touch on that you talked about. Just as long as I've known you, you've always been very, I think, self-motivated and disciplined. And when you want to do something, you do it, even down to the bodybuilding competition. Just different things that that you want to do, you do them. So how important is it for people to have that determination and that laser focus that it seems that you have, even with you talking about everything that you had to go through in the beginning phases of being a real estate agent and making sure, you passed the test, and even just with knowing how long you had to live, between closings. How important is it for people to be focused and really self-determined to achieve their goals?
Yeah, that's a great question. You have to have personal motivation not only as a realtor, but as an entrepreneur. And anything in life, really, you have to believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, then you're gonna fail each and every time. There is a statistic that says that most realtors fail in their first 2 years, and it is because of lack of self-motivation and self-determination. And so you have to have it. I mean, because there'll be a lot of naysayers, a lot of people being discouraging to you. Even in my family, they said, "Oh, you're gonna take that risk? You're not worried about that." Even when it comes to my hair, I have some family members who said, "No one's gonna buy a house from you with locks."
Yeah.
I was crushed when they said that to me, crushed. And I used that as ammo, and I sold double the next year in real estate. And so, you definitely have to be self-motivated, because if you're not, you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose.
And then with perseverance, that alone, being a real estate agent, based on what you've said, just seems like it takes so much perseverance in spite of everything that comes at you. And that's the case with a lot of different things. But I think that a lot of people don't want to put the time in and put the effort in. And sometimes those long-term goals or those things that are going to be lasting, you have to you have to have the perseverance. Even once you reach some level of success, you still have to persevere and push through all of that. How has that been? Like, you just seem to have flexed that muscle of pushing through, just through everything.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think perseverance is one of those soft skills that it is developed and nurtured over a period of time.
Oh yeah.
And that is something I learned a long time ago.
Yeah.
I'll say this too, and this is why to this day, I am such a huge supporter of music in schools. So I marched in the band, and I mean, as you know, and I started band in middle school, 6th grade, played trombone, um, marched in middle school, high school, and college. And what that taught me is that band practice was typically Monday through Friday. You had a game on, or in high school, you had a game on Friday nights. College, game on Saturday.
Saturday.
And it teaches you how to show up on time. It teaches you that hard work and persistence over time equals results. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, high school and college, I hated band practice. Hated band practice. But that Friday night game in high school, that Saturday game on Saturday, made it all worth it. I would do it all over again to this day. But band practice, and even to this moment now, I get so anxious when I'm possibly late to a client appointment, because I just remember back in college, if you were late for band practice, the entire band of 300 people would know, and it would be embarrassing.
They would know. Yeah.
Especially as a freshman. I was late for band practice one time as a freshman. it was death. It was death. I mean, it was not pretty at all, and I was never late after that. And those kind of skills, that perseverance you talked about, carried over into adulthood. It carried it over to today. Even like this morning, today, this interview, I was like, make sure more time, log in, because I get so anxious. So I mean that's taught over time, but I would say it has to start somewhere. And so if you don't possess that character trait, that skill right now, go ahead and get on that.
And just sort of a sidebar with that, I think anybody who marched in an HBCU band has that sort of development and still carries those skills. And even people who've gone to HBCUs. You did say earlier that you went to Jackson State. So for those who don't know, Hubert actually marched in the Sonic Boom of the South. I'll keep most of my comments to myself. No, but a wonderful, outstanding band program, actually. Hubert knows that I love the Boom. Yes. But just being in those environments, to have to get up on time and be somewhere ready to work. I think we were learning on the job skills, life skills, straight out of high school. And also, Hubert, you ended up having a leadership position in the band that next year, your sophomore year, was it?
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I marched in the band my freshman year at Jackson State, played trombone, and realized I wanted to try for drum major. Tried out for drum major my freshman year and made it for my sophomore year. And I'll say something about that too. That experience taught me so much about being prepared and being ready. Because at Jackson State, at the time when I tried out, we had open tryouts. And so the entire school could come. And the people in the audience were not merciful at all. They were not Jesus. And they will let you know when you messed up, they will let you know. When you thought you were doing something, you weren't doing nothing, they will let you know. I mean, people would actually bring signs and say, nope, go sit down. Nope, not in this band. I mean, they push you through it. And that prepares you. I mean, I think that is by design, because if you can't perform in a small gymnasium of maybe 100, 200 people, how are you going to march into a stadium, 50,000 people in the audience, in the stands, and perform and put on a good show? I mean, that is by design. Now, I mean, of course, times have changed, so I'm not sure, what goes down at college universities. As you know, I mean, stuff changes generationally.
Yeah.
But I mean, but it definitely is. It's a mindset thing. And I think that's where I learned my perseverance and being ready. And so when I was trying out for drum major my sophomore year, my freshman year, I started like that January. Tryouts were like in April, and back then I literally practiced at least 6 days a week.
For those tryouts.
And I think that I was so focused on the end results. I was like, I have to do this. I'm going to do this. I can make this happen. I mean, I would be on the field all by myself. It just me and my mace, and just practicing, practicing, practicing. And I mean, that experience taught me, again, once again, another example of being able to put your mind to something and to achieve it. And I think God kind of sprinkles in um, moments of hope over our lifetimes in order to achieve such great success. And I'm blessed to have that.
Yeah. I can say that that experience that you told me about and things that I've heard in terms of trying out for the band or whether you're trying out to be drum major or I know the J-Sets auditions were open. Um, that's one experience that I know just had to have been super duper intimidating. I remember one time you showed me the tape of your of your tryout. And from what I saw, that gym was packed. And then there's YouTube clips online. You know, all the band heads are looking at different things from the olden days when we were actually crabs. Now I don't think they do that now. I don't think they are crabs, but I know we were crabs. Um, it just takes a lot of focus and a lot of guts to do those things. And you've always just been that kind of person, um, Hubert, in the times that I've known you, and again in the things that I've seen you go through and move through. How I guess how important is it for people to have outlets, because I know that people on the outside they see the success that you're making and the strides that you're making, but how important is it to have outlets or people to talk to or just ways to even get away from the dream chase, when it becomes a lot?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would definitely say, have a small circle of trusted friends is so important. And even beyond that, for me, I had a therapist.
Yeah.
And I kept my therapist throughout that time that I started real estate. I mentioned that 3 grand a month. Her expenses were in there because mental health is important. I mean, I was doing this before mental health, became such a hot topic these days, but it's important. And I think when I because I have a therapist and I had one since 2016, um, that helped me to talk to a third party. And she would call me out and say, Hubert, you're trifling, right? I just want to let you know you're trifling. And she's like, oh, and I say, oh, okay. My friends wouldn't tell me that. Even my small circle of trusted friends. And it's not to their fault. Maybe they didn't see it, or maybe they had just become so accustomed to me, those actions. But she would
Yeah.
call me out and say, and I was like, let me think about that for a second. Let me unpack that. But I think like truly having a therapist definitely helps. It definitely helps. And I would go like when I first started, I would go like twice a month. Now I'm like once a month. But yeah, that definitely helps.
And in holding yourself accountable, um, you seem to have just been in the practice of doing that for a while. Just I think people who are self-motivated and self-determined for the most part will hold themselves accountable. How important is it to be accountable to yourself when you may not have the outside forces to say, hey, Hubert, did you work on this today? You said you were going to do this, but you didn't do it. How important is that? I think it all ties into that discipline, but again, a muscle that you said a lot of things have to be just worked and flexed over time and you build up to those things. But how important is it to be accountable to yourself when, jumping or finding what it is that you really want to do or moving towards a new career path or just working towards something in general. How important is that accountability to yourself?
Yeah, and I'll say this too. When it comes to personal accountability, especially business, there's nothing that will motivate you to move when you say that your bank account is like dwindling.
Yeah.
Like I would
Yeah.
and it's still to this day, I look at my bank account every day. It's like, okay. Like back in 2017 when I started, I was like, okay, did that debit card transaction hit yet? Let me see. Okay, all right. And so that really motivated me. It's like, Hubert, you can't go on that trip this year. You can't go. Oh, I'll say this. When it comes to personal accountability, making hard decisions about things that you can and cannot do. So that year, I think my first 2 years, I did not go to homecoming. And in the HBCU world, that is homecoming is like a thing. But I knew that if I went to homecoming, I would spend at least $500, $700 easily. I didn't have that money. I didn't, and so I didn't go. And so my personal accountability when it comes to business is basically tied to money. If there's no money in the bank, if the numbers don't work, then I'm not going to do it. I'll say this too, very important thing. I also, out of each check, I pay my tithes, my 10%. And I mean, there have been situations before I would pay my tithes and almost immediately, like the day after, I would get a lead from out of nowhere from someone said, "Hey, Hubert, I got your number from my best friend. We want to buy a house or sell our house." And that has happened so much. It's weird. It's kind of freaky a little bit, but it's like, oh, okay. I can pay because when it comes to like tithes, it's like changing that mindset in my relationship with money and tithes. And I would get really nervous about paying my tithes. It's like, ooh.
Yeah, I'm gonna make it. Yeah.
But that's another thing, personal thing, that I had to make the jump with. So there are so many things that you have to jump. I mean, like my jump into real estate, that wasn't the only jump. Like there are many times I had to jump. Paying my tithes, going to this professional development, not going to homecoming. Like all those coupled together means that I am marching one step closer to my goals. And so yeah, I mean, all that plays into it. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, it did. And it's funny that you mentioned that about, paying your tithes and then you got to lead about something else. God helps those who help themselves. And I think that it's a sign to me that we're on the right track or right where we're supposed to be. In those moments where we're not really sure, we're really following what our heart is telling us to do, but we're just really unsure how it's going to unfold. And I think God honors that. I think when you are putting one foot in front of the other and trusting that God is going to make the path clear and visible for you, he throws those breadcrumbs out there. He makes the path clear. He shows, he shines the light so that you can see the little bit of the staircase that you can't see. But it's only when we've done the work. And that's something that I've learned we will continuously be doing. Like you said, you are continuously doing the work towards, being a real estate agent. And that never stops when we have dreams and goals. And you've been doing so much work that you've been quite successful. I think last year you said, in your bio, which people will have seen by this time, or if they haven't seen and they're just tuning in, you sold about $10 million last year in real estate. And this coming year, you are close to selling $20 million worth of real estate. Let's talk about that, from going from closing that first deal not going through to selling almost $20 million worth of real estate.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I never thought I would be in this place. I really didn't. When I got into real estate, I just wanted to, of course, make a living, but also I loved houses. I love houses. So much so when I bought my first house, I didn't mention this too. When I bought my first house, I remember going to closing, and being excited and thrilled and also very sad because I was closing on a house, but I was like, oh, so you mean I can't go see houses anymore? Like I just can't pull up like for no reason to see a house. And so that kind
Yeah.
of encouraged me to get my real estate license too. But anyway, um, but yeah, so like my first year, I did 5 million. I was rookie of the year. And for me at that time, I was like, oh, I was doing something. I was pleased and content with that. And that just shows you that God's will is higher than yours. Because I would have been fine with 5 million, totally fine. And then God prepared the way and made it easy for me to do 7 million, 10 million. On the track to do 20 million. And it right now, I mean, it doesn't feel like work. I mean, I enjoy what I do. And so much so, you know, I've been able to earn into our luxury division. And I'm also part of the sports and entertainment division now. And so, you know, I have clients who, you know, play for the Falcons. And I'm working with other NFL and NBA players right now, and actors and actresses, and entertainers. And I never thought, I mean, this is not my goal. This is not my goal at all. But again, God's will is higher than ours. And I enjoy it. I really, really enjoy it. And so yeah, I just look back and, you know, like I said earlier, most realtors leave or fail in their first 2 years. And now here I am working on my 6th year in the business. And so it's been great.
And that doesn't surprise me. It's funny that now that I look back on things that I've done and what I'm doing now as a performer, and just in knowing you, from the time that we met, this personality that you have, you're very much a people person. And I feel like real estate agents have to be those types of people to make people comfortable and feel safe, and, you know, trusting that you're gonna, you know, help them find their forever home or do what's in their best interest. And you just have that type of personality that lends itself to being a real estate agent. Can you talk a little bit about, I guess what I'm getting at is, I think the totality of our lives plays so much into what our purposes are, or the things that we are doing or want to do. Like, this is something that you're passionate about and what you enjoy doing. But clearly your time in the Sonic Boom helped with this. Clearly your time as a news anchor and having to deal with different types of people have helped for this. Can you say a little bit about just really life experiences and how they play a part in, how can I say this? How they play a part in really what you want to do. And what I mean by this, I know I'm sort of rambling about it. I feel like a lot of people don't know where to start, or feel like they don't have anything maybe to start with, you know, but there are, I think, certain skill sets that you might have in the very beginning of the ground floor of your dream that need to be honed. Other things come, but I feel like there are things that are always there. You know, does that make sense? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I'll say this, like real estate is easy. Like anybody can sell a house. My dead grandma can sell a house from her grave, okay? It is not hard. Anybody can do it. The thing is about real estate, the actual selling of the house is like 5% of what I do. The other 95% is dealing with clients and their emotions. And I'll say this too, happy and sad emotions. Just last week, I had a client, or have a client, you know, about to close on their house, and we're doing, you know, the final walkthrough. And she says, Hubert, I have something to tell you. She says, I have cancer, and this house is like a glimmer of hope for me. And I was like, and so it had nothing to do with real estate. Her buying that house was like a glimmer of hope. And even in real estate, I didn't realize this at first. They don't teach this in real estate school, but so much of when people are buying and selling houses are tied to their personal lives. And so, for instance, I know when I'm about to sell a house and the people are getting a divorce, because you'll see holes in the walls. You walk in, the feng shui is just off. And you can see, you know, if it's a straight couple, the female's clothes are in one closet, the male's clothes are in a totally different closet across the house. I had a client, you know, she lost her husband. They had that house for 30 years, and she lost her husband and she wanted to move out to downsize. And so much when people are buying and selling houses, it's tied to a personal experience in their lives. And that's when I become a therapist. I become a listening ear. I mean, like, that goes into being a good person naturally, being able to lead someone through that transition. I had one client, they were buying a house. They had one daughter, and they told me, Hubert, we want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. That's all we want. Don't show us anything more. Well, all of a sudden, she sends me this house. It's like 5 bedrooms, 4 baths. And she tells me, Hubert, I don't know why, but I like this house. I want to go see it. Went to go see the house, fell in love, closed on it. And I said, I don't understand why y'all want this house when you told me you want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. I saw that client 2 months later, and she was pregnant with twins. Mm-hmm. And my mouth dropped. Hers was like, that's why we need this big house. And so it's just like the universe is so tied to the housing market. It's just crazy. And, I've had situations where people get emotional at the closing table because their grandparents were slaves and could not buy a house legally. Black people could not buy houses in this country until recently, And so they were the first person in their house and their families in 2018 to buy a house. Like that's emotional. And so to answer your question, that goes back to just being a good person. I've always been, I like to say I'm a good person. I care about people. Am I perfect? Hell no. But at the same time, I care about people, and that's half the battle.
Yeah. And I think that's, like you said, you are a good person. That's just something about you. And even along the way, finding ways to relate to people, I'm sure a communications degree helps with that, but also doing the types of work that you've done. And I think that there's so much of our natural abilities in most cases that are tied to our passions or things that are purposeful for us. And it's really important for people to tap into those things, just because you never know where they're going to lead. Like, you had no idea that you were going to be in Atlanta working for Keller Williams, as a real estate agent when you were a news anchor in Little Rock, Arkansas, or even before that, in Mobile and Lafayette. Tell us a little bit about Keller Williams. Like, what got you started specifically with Keller Williams? I know you mentioned earlier you had a friend that was telling you about, I think that was a real estate agent or real estate school.
Yeah, I mean, the company is great in the sense that they really do raise up entrepreneurs. I mean, the whole company is a company built on entrepreneurs in real estate. And not only that, it's driven by the reality that think big, think real big. And we are a company where we experience and we know how much our colleagues are making a month in their closings, and it's not because to put people on blast, but because it is another reminder of, if they can do it, you can do it too. The sky is truly the limit, or limitless. And so, I mean, and there's no salary cap on what we do. And so the more time and work you put into your business as an entrepreneur, the more money you make. You don't show up for work, you will be broke. And so, and the models are there. Gary Keller, our founder and CEO, I mean, he's just a great person, and he really wants to see people thrive and to really live a big life. I mean, Gary Keller, the man is a multi-trillionaire probably. And so his goal is really to help people live their best lives. And I've been here with the company ever since day one, and I've really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. How important is it to dream big? Just no matter if you're a real estate agent, just how important is that to really aspire to be greater than you are, in whether you are a real estate agent or a singer or a painter or a photographer? How important is that to dream big?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes into your personal big why. Like, why are you doing things that you do? Why is my goal to, to make a good living for myself? And I'll say this. I mean, my big why, I really I support music in schools. I've given a lot back to Jackson State, the band program, because it does teach so much about those soft skills that we talked about.
Yeah.
And the only way to truly give and give big, I have to make sure me, myself, I'm taken care of. And so when it comes to dreaming big, I mean, it's amazing what happens when you allow your brain to just do the work. It just like don't no inhibitions, just dream it. And I think that, I mean, even like my condo here, like I never thought I would be, living in a high rise and I can see all of downtown Atlanta, all of midtown Atlanta from my high rise, floor to ceiling windows. That goes back to dreaming big. And when you dream big, you also have to put in the work to earn what you are seeking to have. And so I think that, I mean, all that goes into just, being able to be humble while at the same time really going towards what you want in life.
That was a lot. You just seem to have this confidence about yourself, and you've always had that. Was that something that you've just always had, or was that one of those other things that took time to build over time,
Yeah. Especially, yeah, it took a lot of time, because even when I was in, grade school and middle school and high school, um, when I was dealing with, my sexual orientation, I did experience thoughts of suicide. I didn't want to live because I was so insecure about myself. And that took work. That took a long time to work through. Um, some people, some people call me arrogant or jerk, butthole. But I don't see an issue with being excellent and going after excellence. And that's how I'm able to, achieve so much great success for my clients. My clients demand success from me. And so if I'm not excellent in what I do, why are my clients hiring me? Why are they choosing to hire Hubert? And so if I'm not confident in my ability and what I do, then I can't show it to my clients.
True. But I think that also comes across to people. It comes across that way to people who aren't doing things in excellence, or aren't really doing the things that are necessary to push their dreams along. Like, things take work and things take time, and a lot of people give up midstream, and it would come across to people who aren't accustomed to doing the work or having that confidence in yourself, because it's absolutely necessary in order to get anywhere, even the least bit amount of success. You have to believe in yourself to get there.
That, and also sacrifice. I mean, that takes a little bit of sacrifice. I mean, do you think I wanted to miss homecoming? No, I did not want to miss homecoming. I mean, that tore my heart so bad, especially in social media. I had the fear of missing out, and I would see all those pictures of everybody on my yard, and I was like, here I am, so thousands in Atlanta.
Yeah. Have you ever done the?
What's that?
No, go ahead. Say what you're gonna say, then I'll ask my question.
I was just saying, it takes that sacrifice. And my first 2 years, I did sacrifice not going to homecoming. But once I got those closings, and once I, was rolling with hot fish grease, I did not miss a homecoming after that.
Yeah. Have you done alumni band? Will you do it as not marching, but as a drum major?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When did you did, or when did you do it?
I've done a few times. We do it every other year, so I've done it a few times. I've only done it once since being in real estate.
Oh, okay. Your bones, everything's still intact. You still got it, drum major wise, or no?
I practice excellence. Okay, and so I ran my miles well before homecoming, but it was a good time. We had a time.
Is there anything in your journey that you would change? I mean, from news anchor to real estate agent, is there anything that you did or anything that you experienced that you would change, whether it was a decision you made or something that happened?
Well, as they say, hindsight is always 2020. Always. There are things that I would have done differently, of course. Um, so I don't have any regrets about anything, and I don't think I would change anything because I think that's what made me. To your points. Now, if you ask me what I probably should have done, that's a different question. I probably should have been. I would have went to I would have went to Jackson State. I would have done that. I probably would have been um, a business major because I am so business minded. I would have got my real estate license immediately and started selling houses. Um, and I think that I definitely would have done that differently. I would have come out sooner, to be honest with you. I would have come out sooner because that also ties into my confidence, or tied into my confidence. I was so scared, and so yeah, I would probably say those two things were the main things I probably done differently.
Is there anything you wish someone would have told you now, or what back then rather, that you think would have pushed you along further along your journey? Because it seems being that confident and self-determined, a lot of times I feel like is a very lonely process. Just because I know for me, I don't. Not that I don't listen to other people a lot of times, but I'm so reliant on myself. I'm so independent a lot of times that sometimes I don't let those um, outside or external factors come in. But also I'm perceived as someone who is strong and independent, so I don't need help. I don't need the suggestions. So is there anything that you felt could have helped you just by hearing it
Yeah.
when you were younger at any point?
Yeah, I would probably say I wish I would have heard, and I probably did. I probably was just a knucklehead. I just ignored it. Don't seek validation because one thing that I did do, and I've done it a lot in my life, is when God gives me the vision, I'll bounce it off someone else as if the vision wasn't clear enough. And so I've been in situations where, I would have the vision, bounce it off someone, and they talk me out of it. But then, like I said, God pushes you regardless. And I learned the hard way. And so I stopped doing that. Like, I mean, even with the small things.
Yeah.
Do you want fish or chicken? And my instinct would be like, what do you think? Well, it doesn't matter what you think. Let me make my decision. And especially with big decisions. Like, do not, I wish I would have heard someone say, Hubert, do not seek validation. You are enough. You have what it takes. You know what you need to be doing. Do not seek validation, even if it's from family.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No. Yeah, that's true. Because family, and I think it hurts a lot more when family says things to deter you, especially when it's things that you're very, very passionate about, or like you said, the things that God has given you, the vision, and family deters you, or friends deter you from doing the thing that you know in your heart that you need to do. It can be very, very challenging to move through that. I'm just really inspired by the journey that you've been on since we've met, since I've known you, in all aspects of your life. Is there anything that you would tell someone that you haven't said already that might be watching, or that will watch this maybe 5-10 years down the road, that has a dream or wants to start doing something different in their life, but they don't know where to start, or they're afraid to take that jump? Is there anything that you would say that you haven't already said, that you think would motivate them and push them to jump?
uh, I would say 2 words: fear not. And whether you're religious or not, of course, God says, fear not, for I am with thee. But even if you're not religious, still fear not. There's nothing to fear. You just gotta. I read a good article or book a couple of years ago, and it said sometimes when dealing with fear, you just have to hang your head and just walk through it. Just walk.
Do. Yeah.
And it's not gonna, just know that it's not gonna be easy, but you know that you are breaking down the fear one step at a time, moving forward.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and I think that's so real, especially my work. Frederick, there are 90,000 realtors in the state of Georgia. 90,000. There are 10,000 in the metro Atlanta area. But somehow God saw fit for me to be ranked in the top 5%. And I would not be in this place if I had fear. Yeah. It's intimidating when you see 10,000 realtors, like, damn. But I mean, God provides for everybody. And there's enough real estate out here to sell. And God will take care of you.
Yeah. Hubert, how can people get in contact with you if you're someone in the metro Atlanta area, or do they have to necessarily be in metro Atlanta to want to buy a home?
Great question. So I'm licensed here in Georgia, and so I can definitely help you here in the metro Atlanta area. If it's outside of Georgia, I have referral partners that I work with across the country who are just as motivated and as definitely encouraged to get clients good deals. And so I can definitely refer you to someone who is definitely in a position to make sure you achieve your dreams, whether that's in Los Angeles, California, Abu Dhabi, Israel, Keller Williams is international. I mean, just let me know. I got you back. I got your back. I got your back. You can follow me on social media, hire.hubert on IG. And that's honestly, that's probably like one of my main modes of communication, but also Hubert Tate at kw.com if you want to email me.
Hubert, thank you so much. I appreciate you for taking time out of your morning to do this. You got up early. I know me and the crew got up early to do this for sure. I appreciate you. Again, I know this was a long time coming, one of my jumps. So I thank you for just listening to me be like, hey, I want to interview you. Hey, I want to interview you. And just being like, okay, and open to it, not knowing really when it was going to come till the time came. It took perseverance for me and work and sacrifice. So thank you for holding on to that dream with me and agreeing to be here this morning. Again, I'm so proud of you and everything that you're doing, and I'm sure that somebody listening and watching is definitely motivated by the things that you have said. I know that I am. So thank you.
Awesome, my friend. Anytime.
Thank you guys for watching another episode of #Jump the podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media. Email me your questions or anything that you want to see, all your comments, and we'll be in touch with you soon. Take care. Hey guys, please make sure to follow, like, subscribe, comment, and share all things #Jump the podcast.